Uh, Lorenzo, it's great to have you here. So I need to start with the question. You have a background in biology and worked at large companies before founding NOUS Energy. So what was the exact moment that made you decide to leave the corporate world and take the leap into entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So first thing first, thank you for having me. And on the other hand, that is correct indeed. I have a BCS in biology, and
Mm-hmm.
I worked, as a consultant in a nutraceutical field, and then I worked for 6 months in a corporate in the medtech field as a quality assurance and R&D.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that the timeline that I decided that I wanted to go and make something on my own, it was pretty fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a sense that after 6 months, I said to myself, I don't want to be part of something that it's too bureaucratical. I want to do something that
Mm-hmm.
is fast. I want to do fasting that excites me every day.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, the idea to develop an ingredient company actually took quite a bit of time, I have to be honest, because at the beginning, right, the idea was to bring on the market a sort of functional products in a B2C manner, right? So mainly marketing with
Mm-hmm.
an idea to use already, let's say, existent extracts on the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, to then be commercialized, maybe e-commerce, but then interestingly, I exchanged this, let's say, idea with a couple of people that had some expertise, or let's say some
Mm-hmm.
also experience in the venture capitalist world, in food tech startups, and that's when I decided to switch to move to a B2B
Mm-hmm.
ingredient company. Due to the fact that, as you might know, in Europe, B2C is not one of the most founded, let's say, routes, and the majority of
Mm-hmm.
VCs prefer um, B2B, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from there, it was just a tough process because we need to understand, okay, an ingredient company, cool.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have an experience on, specific experience on working on extraction processes or on all those things. It was something that, we need to understand quite well. And then also to understand how we need to be different from what is already present on the market.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, it actually, we started in 2020 and we've done a lot of iterations. We tested approximately 100 production processes before
Mm-hmm.
landing on the proprietary extraction process that we are currently using for the production of Concentra.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say it was tough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I made a bioreactor explode once because it was the first time that I used it because I
Mm-hmm.
forgot to, let's say, open the CO2 valve.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a great experience and a great know-how, let's say, to build
Mm-hmm.
on my own. But then, all of this, all of these things actually led to the development of what we are right now. So we are an ingredient company,
Mm-hmm.
and we are pretty happy uh, to say that, let's say, bureaucracy is not part of the company, and we're pretty fast. So we're able to make things fast, move fast, and innovate, let's say, faster. So that's just a quick, let's say, overview of that.
Mm-hmm. You are an ingredient company, specifically, it's a health ingredient that we have mentioned. Your flagship product is Concentra that that delivers, focus, energy. I don't know much about it. So, could you elaborate the specific product that you mentioned, Concentra?
As you mentioned, we are an ingredient company. So,
Mm-hmm.
we are already working on additional ingredients because it's good that we need to add them in our portfolio for different
Mm-hmm.
reasons, right? Because the market is evolving fast and the market is requesting different ingredients for different, let's say, niches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and also it's important to have additional ingredients for risk mitigation purposes and also expand the commercial, let's say, routes of Concentra in the current months and years. But as you mentioned, the first one that we're focused on is called Concentra, right? So it is
Mm-hmm.
a branded ingredient. It's a botanical extract. So we
Mm-hmm.
use plants that are currently already present in the market. But what
Mm-hmm.
makes us unique, right? It's the way of processing them because extraction processes are super fascinating, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
change a little bit, a little part during the extraction process, the end result is completely different, right? So what we are doing is that, typical extractions are doing on single ingredients with high concentration of actives. What we have been focused on is then to find how molecules, or let's say specific molecules, can interact within one and each other to then simultaneously have beneficial effects. That means that we are using 4 different raw materials simultaneously during an extraction process. We're not just focused on one. We have 4 different raw materials. And these 4 different raw materials is that have chemical interaction during the extractions, right? And these chemical interactions, what enables is to have a stable product, a more functional product, and also, interestingly, is that we are also using less raw material, so less plants, right? When compared to traditional extraction processes. So then we also have less waste, which is important, right? And nowadays to then avoid producing a lot of waste, because then it's difficult to process them, and you have to then be compliant with the legislation to how you're, let's say, managing waste. So the main point of action with Concentra was to find molecules that interact well together, right? And have synergies between one and each other. And that's why we are using 4 different raw materials. So with that being said, Concentra is a powder ingredient, right? That it's been used. It can be suitable for using energy drinks, in all sorts of beverages, and also in food supplements applications. That offers beneficial effects on energy levels, mood enhancement, and also increased cognition. It works better on a clinical level than caffeine on cognition and memory. And also on a clinical study, we have seen that works better on other extracts that are currently present and used in the market on energy levels, acute energy levels, so in the short amount of time, mood enhancement, and also energy levels. No, energy levels and also cognition, my bad. So that's the things where Concentra actually works, let's say, best, right? And the interesting topic is that it can be used in beverages because it's completely soluble and it's also completely neutral in taste. You know better than me that, caffeine is bitter.
Yes.
And it's a differentiating point that we have against caffeine if we're speaking about that specific product, but also when we are comparing it against other extracts, whatever they are, right? Typically, extracts are difficult to solubilize in water, and they also have pretty characteristics, taste, and flavors, which are, let's say, not difficult to mask, but then you need to add masking agent, and you need to add other products that then make the ingredient list longer and not clean anymore, right? Because clean label is growing quite fast in the market. So these are all, let's say, the differentiating the differentiating point that Concentra has against other ingredients that are currently present in the market. And we are currently distributing it in the EU. By September, we will enter the US market. And then we are also thinking about India and China for specific clients and specific applications.
Caffeine, it has some, you can say, side effects like caffeine crashes or maybe high blood pressure or something. So does your ingredient have any kind of these effects, like bad effects?
No, and that's interesting, right? Because when we are speaking about stimulant product, right? The first thing that actually comes up in our mind is caffeine, right?
Yeah.
And caffeine as an ingredient has a lot of benefits, but also has a lot of drawbacks, right? We're speaking about anxiety, sleep disruption, maybe some gastrointestinal issues, and also, energy crashes. Because caffeine has this sort of roller coaster effect, right? That it gives you up, downs, up, downs, up, downs constantly. And when you're at the down part of the roller coaster, right, you need to refuel with caffeine, right?
Yes.
And that's, let's say, not optimal, whatever. And mainly because, caffeine works on specific receptors and it has a specific, let's say, half-life.
Yes.
But also we need to consider that caffeine as a molecule, right? If you're speaking about just caffeine, it is that caffeine works works on saturation, right? Because the more you consume caffeine, the more your body gets used to it, the less effect you feel.
Yes.
So this is interesting also to take into account, because the more caffeine you consume for a prolonged time, the less beneficial effects you feel and the more side effects you will experience. Because caffeine, also if you are consuming it, let's say for 1 year, let's say constantly,
Yes.
you're pounding caffeine in your body, the energy levels will decrease, right? You will not feel the same peak that you had once when compared to the first time, right? But you will feel the same drawbacks. So you will feel increased heartbeat, you will feel the energy crashes, you will feel maybe some headache, some dizziness, right? So caffeine also needs to be, let's say, you need to consume it maybe for 4 or 6 weeks, and then you need to, let's say, cut off caffeine consumption so your body gets, let's say, used to it again, and then you can consume it and you will feel the beneficial effects for then the 4 to 6 weeks, right? But the point is that caffeine works mainly, let's say, on dopamine and choline, right? As far as the two neuroreceptors, but also works on adrenal glands, right? Which then produce noradrenaline, which then is converted in adrenaline, and that's why when we consume caffeine, we'll feel this sort of fight or flight, experience. Concentra, on the other hand, has a more balanced approach, because Concentra works on all 3 neurotransmitters, so choline, dopamine, and also GABAergic. So GABA. GABA typically is associated for relaxation, right? The interaction also with GABA for Concentra, it gives this sort of well-rounded approach, right, of beneficial effects that ensures that the consumers, once they consume the Concentra or a beverage with Concentra in it, right, they will experience the high, but then the low will be a whole lot milder. With caffeine, you have up downs like this, but with Concentra, you will feel the up, and then slowly you will decrease it. We have seen that until the 2-hour time frame after consumption, you will still feel energy with Concentra, or some sort of energy increase, energy boost. But you don't have this constant up and downs, up and downs. You have just reach the top after 20 minutes, and then the other 100 minutes to reach the 2-hour mark. It's a slow decrease. So you're not feeling it, right, as much. And that's super interesting because, you have a more well-balanced approach to energy, and it's also easier to fit in your maybe daily life if you're speaking about beverage, right? Because it's not that, this instant kick and then that's it, vanished. I need another one. I need another one. It can be constant supply of energy, which is important also for what consumers and also brands are looking into it at the moment, right? So this is a quick overview and just on everything, let's say.
Okay. People also consume, let's say, alcoholic beverages like beer to feel relaxed. So if you talk about Concentra, let's say a beverage have Concentra in it. So can it work to replace the alcoholic beverages as well at some point?
I'd say in Europe, we have a specific trend, which it's on it's on beer, whether it is alcoholic or non-alcoholic, right? And it's a beer. Let's say it's a market that it's decreasing quite a lot for new generation because not a lot of people want to consume alcohol, right? On newer generation, right? So as you've seen, there are a lot of brands, also well-known brands that have developed zero alcohol, so zero alcohol products, mainly beer, right? But now they're trying to differentiate on each other because beer is beer, right? At the end of the day, so that depends maybe on flavors, that depends on how it's produced, the type of malt, the type of yeast, blah blah blah. But we have also applications on beer with Concentra, on 0.0. So on alcohol-free beer, we have Concentra because beer company wants to develop something that is different, right? That gives some new value proposition to a beer flavored product. Let's call it this way, because it maybe cannot be called directly beer, right? In this case, because you will add something that is not coming from yeast, malt, whatever. So replace alcohol beverages? I'd say no. Also because we are an ingredient. So let's say that if you say that a company wants to add it in a 0-0, so in an alcohol-free product? The answer is yes. It can be done. And we have already quite a few of examples of beer companies that are developing functional beers for the DACH region, right? For having something new that can attract the new generation to regain, let's say, the consumption of a beer flavored product, right? So that's my 2 cents. On functionality, we're speaking about 2 completely different routes as far as the metabolism of alcohol and let's say Concentra. So also the effects that you will feel are different, right? Because alcohol is, gives you a light head and all those things. Concentra doesn't give you that, because typically when you consume alcohol, you're not hyperactive, right? You don't want to do a lot of things. You just want to chill. You just want to stay with maybe your friends and do whatever. With Concentra, it's not like this.
Okay. And for everyday consumer, how do you make people actually taking and integrating Concentra into their daily routines?
We're speaking about B2B or B2C here?
B2C.
B2C, it's a completely different story in a sense that, I told you that we are B2B, right? So we supply Concentra to industries, both food and beverage and nutraceuticals. There are multiple ways. I think that's, first thing first, if I just have to speak B2B language, companies, whether it's FMCGs or small to medium brands, right? Then they are differentiating one and each other they are differentiating their portfolio of products because they need something that is different. So it's not just price-based, right? Because if it's price-based, then you're competing with, maybe if you're speaking about energy drinks, with Red Bulls, which is impossible because they will always be cheaper than you because they have super high volumes, blah, blah, blah. So B2B, that depends on what the client wants. And if with the value proposition that we have with Concentra, we are able, right, to intercept these needs and then send over samples, do the testing, whatever it is, the shelf life, and then speak with marketing to assess, okay, what is the value proposition that we can propose for this beverage that is compliant with the regulation of that state, right? So that's it. And that's B2B. B2C level, it's awareness. So what we are doing internally with the marketing is to explain what Concentra is, how it works, to explain in simple words how the functionality of Concentra can be compared to something that is already present in the market, right? That could be caffeine, which was the first clinical study that we have done. And now it is other botanical extracts that are currently present in the market. So consumers, whether they are B2B or B2C, they have something to grapple on and understand, okay, this is different because it is better on that specific thing, or that works in a different way. So that could be interesting for that specific product, right? So it's something that, you need to build a brand on also if you're a B2B. But the brand in B2B mainly comes from the scientific validation that you have. So how many clinical studies you have, right? What you're able to claim with this ingredient, with this functionality that you have, and then transport this scientific value in easy language that everyone can understand, and that can be sold to B2C companies so they can use it for doing a marketing campaign for the development of a new product. That's how, let's say, it is structured, our approach. And that's how ingredient companies, in my point of view, needs to do it. So if your answer is also, are you planning to do a B2C product with Concentra? The answer is no, due to the fact that we are an ingredient company and we are developing ingredients. And going B2C means that we need to, change quite a bit our structure, our know-how, and our knowledge to then do something that is completely out of our business goals.
Okay. What does your day-to-day operational stage look like, right? What's your capability of production of Concentra?
Right now, on a yearly basis, it's 25 tons. By the end of the year, we will reach between 40 and 60. metric
Okay.
tons. My day-to-day, let's say, is pretty straightforward. It's about, maintaining the relationship with investors, stay tight on them. In this specific time, closing the contracts for the seed round that we are raising to then be efficient, right? And not lose any specific time. And also at this given moment, also onboarding new team members in the company. Because they need to be onboarded on, let's say, commercial, operations, supply chain, regulatory, all those things. Plus, managing some specific collaboration with some corporate partners that we currently have for, let's say, contracts reviews and also for the press release with the marketing. So my role is, let's say, operational, but I manage a lot of things, right? And then make sure that the company is on track with the objectives and KPI and OKR, whatever, on a quarterly and on a yearly basis, to be sure that what we said at the beginning of the year, right? We will do it. We will finish it by the end of the year without having any trouble. And also by envisioning, what the company needs to look in the nearby future, and also which type of ingredients and which type of things we need to focus on to then be ahead of the competition.
Okay. If you get funds, so where exactly will that capital go, and what immediate will it solve for the business?
I'd say it's not if, but it's when.
Okay.
But with that being said, no, without that being, that was just a joke. But the main allocation, right, it will be used for hiring new people because it's needed, right? We need to grow because the challenges in the company are actually growing. So it's important that we expand our team on new clinical studies, because clinical studies are never enough. And there will be always someone that says you need more. So that's why we're focused on that. Improving Concentra on specific things, and these specific things are supply chain and also production process, and also the lead time. Because for now the lead time is between 14 and 16 weeks. We want to reduce it between 10 and 12 weeks. So there is a good work that needs to be put on the supply chain management. And then development of new ingredients, which is important. And then also expansion, market expansion. Because I mentioned we are entering the US. For US, we need a certification, which is a self-GRAS, and the self-GRAS will be obtained by July 2026, my bad. So it's a process that we are following, and it will be concluded once we finalize this seed round.
Okay. And you have a goal to go zero waste by 28. So what does the ultimate long-term vision for like NOUS Energy look like?
So on the zero waste, right? I think it is important that zero waste. Currently, we are focusing on understanding how the waste is composed, or what we can do with the waste. That's the most important thing. That's the first step. And end of the year, we'll have a pretty good idea of the composition and what we can do with it, right? And what we will be able to do it. And after, it's R&D process to assess what we can do, which type of partnership we need to have for doing these specific things. And from there, I think it's just a timeline process, and also the involvement of new partners to then assess what can actually be done. And that's it. But then, if you're speaking about food products, we need to assess, novel food. We need to assess scalability of the production process, reliability on the waste. So that means standardization of specific key components. But that's, let's say, an overall view of what needs to be done. I'm not entering into many details because it's complicated. So, but with that being said, we have some project open for developing or other new ingredients from the waste, or then to get it back and use it for some potential other application which are outside the food and beverage products, but with specific partners. So that's a thing that takes a little time and a little, let's say, thought process behind it. If you have to tell me how do I see the company in 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years, I'll see the company as an ingredient company for sure, still remain that, with at least between 4 and 6 ingredients in the portfolio, with Concentra included in, right? That it supplies this ingredient worldwide, with the key markets are Europe and US. Pretty much that.
And for the last question, what is your advice or suggestion for the other early stage founders who are trying to build a profitable business without compromising their sustainability ethics?
No, that's a good question. That's a really good question. My main advice, let's say, if it's not related to sustainability, is that validate the market also if the product is not at 100%. Because that's what I've done, right? Because sometimes it happens that when you're a scientific founder, you want to have a product that it is at 100%, and you keep waiting, and nothing comes at you because you're not validating what it needs to be done. If it has to be sustainable, my first point is that you need to understand the word sustainability, right? Because sustainability, it's a complicated word. And with that, what do I mean? I mean that sustainability, let's say, if you're in food tech, right, sustainability is complex. Because at the moment that you are, let's say, developing something, right, that then needs to travel the globe, right? Because then maybe you have a client in the US, right? So you need to do a parcel travel in the airplane or by a container, right? You are still polluting, right? So your product is more sustainable than the potential alternative that you're doing, whether it is coffee, cocoa, vanilla, whatever. But at the end of the day, what you need to do is then to build some, let's say, policies in your company that mitigate the pollution that you're doing for commercializing this thing. Because when you're working with corporates, at the end of the day, sustainability is important, but what you will do is that your ingredient won't be, potentially speaking, as sustainable as you thought, but you need to build policies that makes the company sustainable. So how to compensate the emissions that you're doing by, let's say, transporting 100 tons every year of these specific things just in the US, right? And that's how it should be, how I mean sustainability, because it's not just, let's say, oh, let's do something that reduces by 80% CO2 emissions, but then if I travel across the world for selling it, then this 80% will be compensated, right? So that's the key point that I think it's important to address sustainability in the correct point. That's my point of view, right? Not just say sustainability because it's a buzzword like AI, but to, let's say, understand deeply what you're building and how you can mitigate the sustainable path once you achieve actual scalability and partnership with FMCG products or FMCG companies, my bad, right? So that's my main advice. And also be passionate and be prepared to, sweat and cry blood for quite a bit of time, because it's quite difficult to enter in the ingredient space, which is a complicated market for a startup because it requires time, it requires validation, and it requires, a good amount of money before seeing or having the return that you think that you will have in maybe other sectors. So it's just a step process that you will understand yourself to be, that you will see yourself evolving quite a bit, right? But it takes time, because you think that, commercial takes a month and then you launch products on the market. No, it's not like this. When you're a B2B, in our case, like, right, when it goes well for launching a new product, from the first contact with the company, it is one year. Or when, let's say, we're speaking about corporations, can take 2 or also 5 years, right? But that depends. There are a lot of things, a lot of variables, and you cannot manage them all of them all together. It needs to take time. So yeah, that's my maybe 2 cents, maybe 4 cents, because it was quite a bit long. So yeah, whatever.
Okay, Lorenzo. It was great knowing about pure innovation and yourself. It was great talking to you. I'll let you know whenever I'm about to post it.
Sounds like a plan. Super.
It was great talking to
Super.
you. Yes.